Hey guys, welcome to today's vlog. I've been thinking about what to do today, and I want to read a part of a book. Is there any books where you believe it really influenced your life as a child? I know there was an author who influenced my life and my childhood, and he was, by all means, my most favourite author. He had a sense of humour, he made things up, he made words out of nothing, and I just relate to him as my childhood. I think he was amazing. I've seen documentaries on him, and unbelievable life, as well as he has also wrote his kind of autobiographical children's book also, which again had an influence in my life too. So I'm going to read you some passages today from one of his books. Now, I know that's a bit of a weird vlog, but because he had such an influence, and he probably, to be fair, either has an influence on you when you were growing up, or maybe even your children today, as he is still readily read and one of the best-selling children's authors out there. Of course, I'm talking about Roald Dahl. Now, his books were amazing. I remember knowing The Magic Finger off by heart. Literally page to page, I could read it, recite it. It was fantastic. Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, again, was a fantastic book, followed up by The Great Glass Elevator. And then that rolled into the movies, which again were some real good highlights of my childhood, watching those movies. Really does mean that it was kind of like all about that when I was a kid. So today, I'm going to read a couple of extracts from George's Marvellous Medicine. Amazing. Now this book, it's probably one of my favourite books that Roald Dahl wrote. And also, it was read to me as a child by my parents, but also by Rick Mail on Jackanory, and that has a massive effect on just the way I am. And yeah, I love the way he came over with such like disgust and things like that. His facial expressions were fantastic. I will not do him justice by reading this out today, but it's amazing. So if you manage to go and check out other videos with him in it, Jackanory, it's probably, I guess, 90s, early 90s that you read it. It was amazing. It was one of the programmes I came home from school and it was like, I have to watch that. I have to. It was fantastic. So, without further ado, here is chapter 1 of George's Marvellous Medicine. Chapter 1. Grandma. I'm going shopping to the village, George's mother said to George on a Saturday morning. So be a good boy and don't get up to mischief. This was a silly thing to say to a small boy at any time. It immediately made him wonder what sort of mischief he might get up to. And don't forget to give Grandma her medicine at 11 o'clock, the mother said. Then out she went, closing the back door behind her. Grandma, who was dozing in a chair by the window, opened one wicked little eye and said, Now, you heard what your mother said, George. Don't forget my medicine. No, Grandma, George said. Just try and behave yourself for once while she's away. Yes, Grandma, said George. George was bored to tears. He didn't have a brother or sister. His father was a farmer, and the farm they lived on was miles away from anywhere. So there were never any children to play with. He was tired of staring at pigs and hens and cows and sheep. He was especially tired of having to live in the same house as that grisly old grunion of a grandma. Looking after her all by himself was hardly the most exciting way to spend a Saturday morning. You can make me a nice cup of tea for a start, Grandma said to George. That'll keep you out of mischief for a minute. Yes, Grandma, said George. George couldn't help but disliking Grandma. She was a selfish, grumpy old woman. She had pale brown teeth and a small puckered up mouth like a dog's bottom. How much sugar in your tea then today, Grandma? George asked her. 1 spoon, she said, and no milk. Most grandmothers are lovely, kind, helpful old ladies, but not this one. She spent all day and every day sitting in a chair by the window. She was always complaining, grousing, grouching, grumbling, griping about something or other. Never once, even on her best days, had she smiled at George and said, "Well, how are you this morning, George?" Or, "Why don't you and I have a game of snakes and ladders?" Or, "How was school today?" She didn't seem to care about other people, only about herself. She was a miserable old grouch. George went into the kitchen and made Grandma a cup of tea with a tea bag. He put 1 spoon of sugar in it and no milk. He stirred the sugar well and carried the cup into the living room. Grandma sipped the tea. "It's not sweet enough," she said. "Put more sugar in." George took the cup back to the kitchen and added another spoonful of sugar. He stirred it in again and carried it carefully into Grandma. "Where's the saucer?" she said. "I won't have a cup without a saucer." George then fetched her a saucer. "And what about a teaspoon, if you please?" "I've stirred it for you, Grandma. I stirred it very well." "I will stir my own tea, thank you very much," she said. "Fetch me a teaspoon." George fetched her a teaspoon. When George's mother or father were home, Grandma never ordered George around like this. It was only when she had him on her own that she began treating him badly. "You know what's the matter with you?" the old woman said, staring at George out of a teacup with those bright, wicked little eyes. "You're growing too fast. Boys who grow too fast become stupid and lazy." "But I can't help it if I'm growing fast, Grandma," George said. "Of course you can. Growing's a nasty, childish habit." "But we have to grow, Grandma. If we didn't grow, we'd never be grown-ups." "Rubbish, boy. Rubbish," she said. "Look at me. Am I growing? Certainly not.